Hey, it's me, Vicky. Me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So I've overslept this morning. I was hoping to come on a lot earlier than this to do this update about Nancy Guthrie. So basically, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all your support of my channel. I really appreciate it. Please like, please subscribe, even share, and just thank you. Thank you especially to my members. Special thanks to those of you who've bought me Ko-fis, send super stickers, etc. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take off the banner. Yeah, don't forget to leave your DNA on the subscribe button. It's completely free, and the like. I really appreciate. I've had quite a lot of new subscribers lately. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so as I say, I've completely overslept this morning. I wanted to get up really bright and early because I didn't do a video about Nancy yesterday, and there are a few things that I want to share with you. But there's two main things really. So there's no arrests as far as I know, unless something's happened within the last 15 minutes. We're still in a position where we don't know what's happened to Nancy, but a couple of things that I think are important to talk about that I'm going to talk about in this video. And then later I'm going to split this into two videos and upload without the waffle as usual and upload it on my other channel. Good morning, Tracy. A couple of early birds here. Hi, Tracy. Hi, David. Up bright and early this morning. Unlike me, because of course it's an hour ahead here in Spain than it is in the UK. So it is at the moment 8:26. I've got classes later as well. So yeah, I'm completely behind with everything, but never mind. So it's a bit of a work in process, this video. I'm having to sort of I haven't put proper thumbnail up yet, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to make the video. I know a lot of people like to get information about Nancy, and then later, as I say, I can edit it and upload it on my other channel without the waffle. There won't be much waffle though, because I haven't got time to waffle because I've got classes quite soon, Spanish classes. For people who don't know me in my other life, I am a Spanish teacher. If you want to learn Spanish, my books are available on Amazon. I should do more advertising of them, but anyway, I'm not going to do that this morning. Okay, so what is it I want to tell you about? So yeah, two things. Savannah Guthrie, Nancy's. Let's just put a picture of Nancy up while we're chatting. So Nancy Guthrie, this is the lady who went missing, snatched from her bed, plucked from her bed. Lots of blood found at the scene. Doesn't look very good. She's been missing for, oh gosh, what even day are we on now? It's over 50 days. Is it 54, 55 days missing? Coming up to 2 months, isn't it, that Nancy's been missing? What happened to her? We just don't know. And despite the fact there is CCTV of the perpetrator or suspected perpetrator available, nobody's come forward to identify the person. There's over $1 million reward available, and nobody's come forward. So it doesn't look very good, does it? Does not look very good. Hi, Mark. Yes, we're going to talk about that sheriff this morning. Oh, Sheriff Nanos, he's been a naughty boy. I think everything that we think about Sheriff Nanos is true. He's not a good person. He's not a good person. That's one of the things we're going to talk about in this video. But also, and probably first, we're going to talk. This is Savannah. This is Nancy's, one of Nancy's daughters. Nancy has two daughters, Savannah and Annie. Savannah is a famous news anchor on NBC. So we're going to look at a portion of the latest interview she's done. She's done an interview with her TV station that she works for. And bits of it have been released. The whole interview's not been released yet, or I haven't seen the whole interview yet. I think they will release it bit by bit. So we're going to have a look at an excerpt from that interview where Savannah is very distressed. And the person who's interviewing her, who I presume is a friend of hers, or certainly a colleague of hers, is very upset as well. So we're going to look at that first of all. Then we are going to concentrate on Sheriff Nanos, and I'm going to Brian Ensign. For those of you who don't know, he's a podcaster that's done a lot on the Nancy Guthrie case. He's done a very good video where he's interviewed someone about Sheriff Nanos. And we find out, Sheriff Nanos, he's got a very checkered past. How is he even a sheriff with the past he's had? Well, he's lied. That's how. On his resumes, etc., he's told porky pies. So that's how he's got to be where he is. And also he's manipulated election results. He's bullied fellow contenders. And what you'll find interesting about this, especially interesting about this video we're going to watch, the person, if you take politics into it, Sheriff Nanos, he's a Democrat. That doesn't matter whether he's a Democrat or a Republican. There's twonks in both parties, of course. But the interesting thing is that the person that Brian Ensign interviews in this episode of Brian Ensign Investigates, he's also a Democrat. So this is not a political thing. It's easy that we have heard Republicans and fellow challengers to be sheriff complaining about Sheriff Nanos. And it's easy to think, it's a political thing, because they don't like him because he's a Democrat. No, they don't like him because he's a twang. Nobody likes him. Nobody's sticking up for Sheriff Nanos when he has these votes of no confidence. They're 100%. 300 of his own deputies voted a vote of no confidence in Sheriff Nanos. Nobody's sticking up for him. So that tells you something, doesn't it? So it's not a political thing. It's not people that are against him because he's a Democrat or is this or is that. It's because he's not good at his job. And he's not a very nice person. He's a liar. He's got violent history, being violent to prisoners. You just feel that if you looked into his personal life, maybe there might be some DV even in there. That's how he strikes me as a vindictive little man. That's according to what other people say about him. That's the impression I certainly got of him, and I know a lot of you did. But it's confirmed by people that actually know him. Anyway, we're going to talk about that next. First of all, we're going to talk about Savannah's. We're going to have a look at this interview that Savannah made. And of course, the family have been through a lot, haven't they? This case has consumed us. We didn't even know Nancy. So to imagine that is actually your mum, your grandma, that's disappeared into thin air with just blood, the blood left behind, you're going to be thinking, what has happened to her? And we don't know where she is. We don't know if she's alive or not. There's always an outside chance, isn't there, that she might be alive, although it's hard to believe now, but we can only hope. And of course, you can imagine I've had sleepless nights over Nancy, so she's not even my mum. I didn't even know her, so God knows how this poor family are getting on. Now, of course, the other sister, Annie, and her husband, Tommaso, they've come under a lot of scrutiny because they were the last people to see Nancy. Nancy took an Uber to their just up this. So of course this all happened in Tucson, Arizona. Nancy ordered an Uber, or somebody ordered an Uber taxi. She went off to spend the evening with her daughter Annie and her husband Tommaso. They spent the evening having dinner, playing games. And then apparently Tommaso, the husband, brought Nancy home, saw her into the house, from what people are saying, but we haven't had the full details. Maybe that's because of the case. But sometimes I'm thinking, I wonder if this person was in the house waiting for Nancy, when she went in, because although Tommaso made sure she was in safely, did he actually go into the house? Was this person already in the house? Because we're not sure really how they got in. Now, we know they went round the back and, they went round the front and they got the flowers to try and put out the camera. But was that after they'd already done whatever they'd done? Does that explain why their backpack was full? Maybe they'd already been in the house and they went to remove the camera so they could bring Nancy out of the front door. If they got in through the back, some people are saying that Nancy would leave her back door unlocked, or maybe they got in through her sliding doors in her bedroom that are always easier to get into. Was that CCTV of the perpetrator? Was that after they'd been in the house, done whatever they'd done to Nancy, and were getting ready to bring her out of the front door? And is that why the rucksack looked full? Because maybe they had taken things from the house. So I'm starting to lean that way a bit more, that maybe they'd already been in the house, and that CCTV of them was not them going in. Maybe they'd gone out of the house, brought the car up. So, yeah, I can see a scenario. It's a possibility, just like any other scenario. They could have done whatever they've done to Nancy. They were in the house, don't forget, they think they're in the house 40 minutes or something like that. Then did they go out, get the car, bring it up? I still think it might be just one person. I know some people are saying it's a gang or it's several people. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm only giving my own impression of what might have happened. Did they then go out, get the car, bring it up closer to the house, take Nancy out through the front door, put her into the car, and off they go? Makes you wonder. We don't know the order of how things have happened. And of course, we've got all this conflicting information of was the person seen there before? Apparently Nanos said that Google had given a date stamp of the 11th of February, but then Google backtracked on that. So basically we don't know. I think it's we don't have a clear timeline really of everything that happened. All we do know for certain is Nancy's gone. There was blood. Did that blood go into the house? The person that went into the house had a gun. So did they shoot her? Did they hit her? Where did the blood come from? Or was it a nosebleed? Was it, we just don't know, do we? We weren't there and we don't know the exact things that happened. And we don't know where he took Nancy after that, whoever took her. Some people think she was taken over the border to Mexico, or I personally think she's a lot closer than that. But again, I don't know. Nobody knows. We've all got our theories, but until this case is solved. And of course, 2 people have been arrested and detained. Two suspects, if you like, and their families, and their houses searched, cars searched, etc. But no arrests. Okay, so, and, it's the motive, isn't it? It's the motive. I think this person intended to take Nancy, always intended to take her. I know some of you are saying in the chat about being a burglary gone wrong. I don't, for me, it doesn't feel like a burglary because I don't know why they would go in there when they knew she was there. She'd been out all evening. She'd been out all evening for hours. Why didn't they go in and rob the place then? So yeah, I think for whatever reason, I don't know what the motive is. She was targeted. This is a personal thing, I think. I think the answers lie within her personal circle. I'm not saying the family, I'm just somebody who knew her, somebody who'd been in that house before for whatever reason and maybe had a grudge against her, or maybe they thought she'd be easy to overpower and maybe she was a lot more feisty than they thought she would be. But I still think, why did they take her with them? Burglars don't do that. If things go wrong in a burglary and somebody gets killed as a result or injured, the burglar just goes. They don't say, imagine just making that decision. Oh gosh, yeah, I better do a run. I'm going to take this old lady with me. Doesn't make sense, but anyway, who knows? I think it's close to home as well, Mark. I really do. Now, I'm not saying Annie, Tommaso, Savannah, etc. When you say close to home, that could be anyone. How many people do we know and our families? It doesn't have to be an immediate family member. It can be a cousin, it can be a niece, a nephew, a great niece, great nephew, great uncle. Well, it won't be an uncle probably for Nancy because Nancy's already elderly. But what I'm saying is, we have big extended families. It doesn't have to be our immediate family, or it could be someone who knows one of our family members, and you don't know. It could be someone who did some work for Nancy, or someone who was close to her at one time and then maybe she let them go, or maybe she caught them stealing something. Imagine if it was one of it, and this is complete conjecture. Imagine if it was one of her carers that she'd had before, and Nancy caught them doing something, maybe taking something, and so she sacked them, or so they bore a grudge, or a pool person who bore a grudge, or a gardener. It just could be anyone who's had some contact with Nancy at some point in time. And as we saw from the Tepe case with Monique and Spencer, people can hold grudges for a long, long time. Grudges are like slow burns, aren't they? Something can happen and it could be 10 years, like with Monique and Spencer, 10 years before Monique's ex-husband went and shot them both. Why did he wait all that time before he did it? Why hadn't he done it before? So you just don't know, do you? So it could be, but I just strongly believe that they knew Nancy, and this could be to do with Savannah. So of course, because Savannah is a famous person, a lot of and she did put a lot on the TV about her and her mum. Her mum quite often appeared on videos with her. So, people would have known that Nancy was Savannah's daughter. So if someone had a grudge like they do against famous people, it could have been that as well. But, doesn't necessarily, just because Savannah's the favourite one, the famous one, the grudge could be against Annie or Tommaso or Cameron, the son. If there is a grudge there, it could be against any of them. It doesn't have to be Savannah just because she is the more well-known person. So anyway, basically, it's a complete shit show, the whole case, isn't it? Nobody knows what happened. There's a million theories out there. We've all got our opinions, our theories, and nobody knows. So God knows what this family are going through. So anyway, we're going to have a look at the interview that Savannah did. That's the first thing we're going to look at. Let's see. Let's make sure it's sharing. It's very short because it's only an excerpt. It's only an excerpt from the main interview, which will be coming out at some point. There's a full interview, and they've released an excerpt from it on a news item. So it's only 2 minutes long, this video.
Nearly 8 weeks since her mother Nancy's shocking.
Yes, I'm trying to get back to the beginning.
Tonight, in anguish, Savannah.
Please let me know if you can hear it, because sometimes the sound doesn't come through. I can hear it okay, but sometimes for some reason.
Opening up in her first interview nearly 8 weeks since her mother Nancy's shocking abduction.
Someone needs to do the right thing. We are in agony.
Yeah.
We are in agony. It is unbearable. And to think of what she went through.
Yeah.
I wake up every night, in the middle of the night, every night. And in the darkness, I imagine her terror. And it is unthinkable. But those thoughts demand to be thought.
Yeah.
And that she needs to come home now.
This just a portion of Savannah's heart-wrenching conversation with her former Today Show co-anchor, Hoda Kotb.
There is a desperation and also a steeliness.
Okay, so it's good. Apparently you can hear it. Morning, Julie. Buenos dias. ¿Qué tal? So, yeah. Let's watch it to the end and then I'll play it again. So I'll say it's just a snippet because they're going to be releasing the full interview. Because you know what? It's funny, isn't it, really? Because, you know, at the end of the day, Savannah Guthrie is a journalist, is a reporter. So, and this is her station, you know, that she works for. And they're doing it the way that, you know, if this was somebody else's mum or grandma or whatever, they'd be presenting. It's a news item. At the end of the day, you know, it is a news item, and they want publicity because she wants to find her mum, and she just said, "Then I will not be silent." You know, good. She shouldn't be. She should be out there making this pillar, whoever it is, feel bad. I hope they feel like shit.
It's about Savannah. I mean, she's hoping that somebody, whoever this person is, will see something and say something.
Hoda says Savannah told her she believes God is holding her hand and that even through this nightmare, she's determined not to let anyone steal her joy.
I was sort of marveling that she was able to sit there with an outfit on, have a conversation, and also have just direct thoughts about what she sees going forward.
And Tom, Hoda says in the interview, Savannah also addresses the latest in the investigation. A reminder that if you know anything, you can call the FBI tip line 1-800-CALL-FBI. Tom.
And please call that tip line if you have any information. You can see much more of Savannah's interview with Hoda tomorrow and again on Friday, on Today, and right here on Nightly.
Yeah, now the full interview may even have been on now because, you know, America's on a different time to me, but I will find that. We'll look at that next time. Let's go back to the beginning of this again. Now, there's a lot of us will be, you know, me included, you think, God, you know, there she is. She's dressed up. She's got makeup on and everything. But, you know, this is her, don't forget who she is. This is her profession. So, and she's coming on there and she needs to, you know, what else can she do? She needs to draw attention. I mean, to me, once over $1 million reward has been offered and no one's come forward for a couple of weeks since then, I can't see that anyone's going to come forward. But you never know. Somebody might just be watching Savannah and think, oh, God, I can't put this family through it anymore. I'm going to say what I know. It might not be the perpetrator. It might be someone who knows them. You know, somebody must know that person. Somebody other than the perpetrator definitely knows something, 100%. It's whether they've got the courage to come forward. Because, you know, they might be scared to.
Tonight, in anguish, Savannah opening up in her first interview nearly 8 weeks since her mother Nancy's shocking abduction.
Someone needs to do the right
Mm-hmm.
thing. We are in agony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are in agony. It is unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
And to think of what she went through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I wake up
me.
every night, in the middle of the night, every night. And in the darkness, I imagine her terror. And it is unthinkable, but those thoughts demand to be thought.
Yeah.
And I will not hide my face.
No, I will not hide my face. Good.
That she needs to come home now.
This just a portion of Savannah's heart-wrenching conversation with her former Today Show co-anchor, Hoda Kotb.
There is a desperation and also a steeliness about Savannah. I mean, she's hoping that something.
Hoda says Savannah told God is holding her hand, and that even through this nightmare, she's determined not to let anyone steal her joy.
I was sort of marveling that she was able to sit there with an outfit on and have a conversation and also have just direct on what she sees going forward.
And Tom, Hoda says in the interview, Savannah also addresses the latest in the investigation. A reminder that if you know anything, you can contact the FBI tip line 1-800.
And if you have information, you can see much more of Savannah's interview with Hoda tomorrow and again on Friday, on Today, and right here on Nightly. We thank you.
So that's Savannah. Now, she's obviously, as Nancy was, very religious person. She says God's holding her hand. Now, I've got to say, I got quite angry with God yesterday. I just went into one of those. There's a case at the moment in the UK that's just been talked about. I want to talk about the case, but I don't know if I can get through it without getting too upset. You know, I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's a teenage boy who's murdered his mum. And it just set me into a complete, you know, dealing. It's like being interested in true crime. It's like sometimes I think, why am I interested in this? What am I doing? And you know, because it's so depressing sometimes, and sometimes it's unbearable. And I'm not even, as I say, this is not these people. They're not my family, but you know, feeling for other people. Anyway, it's a terrible case. It's a young lad who has murdered his mum, basically, and just in the coldest way you can imagine. Anyway, I am going to report on it. I am going to report on it too, because I do think this is a very common thing these days, much more common than it used to be. Young adults killing their parents. You know, we've seen it like in the high-profile case of the Rhiners and their son Nick, you know, brutally murdering them. Now, it's so common. Why is it so I think drugs have got a lot to do with it. I'll tell you 100% certain that this boy, this 18-year-old boy that has murdered his mum, they're coming out and saying, oh, well, he was autistic. That has nothing to do with being autistic. There's loads of autistic kids out there don't go around killing their mothers or fathers. These people are smoking cannabis. That's what they're doing, and their brains, it just ruins their developing brains. This skunk cannabis, all the chemicals that are in it, I bet any money that is behind it, because where does a son lose the empathy completely and hate their parents so much that it's not even, you know, it's the brutal way that he did it as well. Anyway, I'm going to report on that. I'm not going to talk about that now because I definitely will get upset. So I was very upset last night about it. And as I said, I was thinking, oh, I can't report on that. I can't talk about that. But it has to be talked about. I do think there's sometimes a problem with things that are very upsetting, like elder abuse or sex abuse towards elderly people or children, that sometimes people do shy away from, but you don't want to talk about because it is so horrible. But if it's not talked about, how is it ever addressed? And I don't think enough importance is put on this increase in young adults, teenagers killing their parents. It just seems to be every 5 minutes now, and you think, where's that? Where, you imagine, all I could think of was that woman, that poor woman that is killed. She's not very old herself. When she would have found out she was pregnant, she was probably delighted, that she was pregnant. She brought her baby home, like we do, people who've got children, you've brought, there's nothing, it's a lovely feeling, isn't it, when you have your child and you don't know what's coming further on, because there's always difficulties coming, but not quite the difficulties that this woman had to go through. But, and I just thought, God, all monsters were babies once, weren't they? They were toddlers. Went in this relationship with her. Is it because of drug abuse, or is he just a bad person, or was she a terrible mother? I don't know, but lots of parents are bad parents, but their children don't go and murder them. So there's more to it than that, isn't there? And it was so, honest God, my heart's just breaking for her. What she must have gone through. Can't stop thinking about it, so I'm going to stop talking about it now because it's upset me too much. But I forgot why I even started saying, I'm on the waffle. But yeah, there's such, so I got really angry with God. So I don't know how Savannah feels, because she's obviously a religious person. She believes in God. But, I got like quite angry, so I was thinking, how could that happen? What that woman has gone through, like she says about Nancy, the terror she will have gone through, it haunts you, it keeps you up at night. And she's not even my mum, so there's like this evil. I feel like there's evil being unleashed in the world at the moment. And so some people, have said, it's like end of days. At the end of the day, if you believe in God, you have to believe in the devil as well. And the devil, Satan or whatever, represents himself through people doing bad things. And even the Pope is speaking out now and saying there seems to be this increase in Satanism and things like that. You don't, just, is it like the end of days, and it's hard, isn't it, to battle evil elements, like I think, as I've said before, we all battle with our consciences day in, day out, don't we? Our consciences. For little things like, should I speed, going too fast in your car, or you're not wearing your seatbelt. I'm talking about little things that we do. But there's people out there that are really grappling with evil. It's apparently this young lad, he's been saying on Discord and whatever that he was going to kill his mum. He was planning it. It wasn't, a fit of rage. Just the most horrible thing. So that is real evil, isn't it? That is evil living in a person. The devil represents himself through people. So yeah, I got a little bit angry with God, because I was thinking, how could that happen? But there you can see that Savannah, she's still got her faith. I don't know how you get up every day in those circumstances. It's hard enough to get up every day in normal life, isn't it? But when you're going through that and you don't know where your mum is or what's happened to her, she's got up, she's put her makeup on, she's done her hair, got dressed, and she's done an interview because she has to do it. She does have to do it, and good for her for doing it. And let's hope it makes some difference. So anyway, that's the Savannah interview. What we're going to look at now, of course, is Sheriff Nanos. So if there's one good thing that has come out of this case, hi Daniel, if there's one good thing that has come out of this case, I think, it's Nanos 40 years. And I think he's going to be removed from his post. He should do the right thing and resign. That's what Sheriff Nanos, if he was a decent person, which he's not a decent person, so he probably won't resign, he'll cling on until he's forced out. Because Sheriff Nanos, if this case wouldn't have happened, nobody knew. I didn't even know where Pima County was. I mean, obviously I've heard of Tucson, but Pima County Sheriff, nobody apart from the people that live in that area would even know about it, would they? Would even have heard Sheriff Nanos's name? And he's been under he's been out of the limelight, hasn't he? He's been under the radar with all these bad things in his past and in his present, and people not liking him, and all the manipulation and vindictiveness from this man. But he's been under the radar. But now, of course, because of Nancy's case, so I'd say if one good thing comes out this case, it will be him being removed. Now he's under the spotlight, and everybody all over the world knows about him and the bad things that he's done, etc. So I think that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because he probably can't believe it. He was probably thinking, he's in his 70s, early 70s anyway. He probably wouldn't run for sheriff again. He's probably thinking he'll just get these last few years in of being King Dick of Pima County. And making what he can out of his position, and now suddenly he's in this spotlight, and so apparently the residents, they can't wait to get rid of him, and his own deputies as well. So I think that's what's important to remember. I don't feel like I'm doing a character assassination of Sheriff Nanos because everybody else is doing that. I don't even know him. I don't live there. All I know is nobody's sticking up for him. Nobody's coming on the podcasts or, to be interviewed by Brian Ensign or anyone else saying, no, he's a fantastic guy. He's great. He's done wonders for Pima County. Nobody, nadie, ninguna persona. Nobody's coming out and saying that. Everybody. So that tells you something, doesn't it? If somebody's in the public eye and they get criticised and nobody supports them, people in the public eye are always going to get criticised. Of course they are. But normally you have at least a sort of 50-50 of people saying they're great and people saying they're terrible. Not in Nanos's case, is it? So we're going to have a look at this. So this is, of course, the man himself, Sheriff Nanos, the clown sheriff, deputy dog, as I call it. You can't believe a word he says. He's backtracked on so many things he said. Anyway, we've looked at him closely. Let me now go show you the video that part of the video that Brian Ensign had an interview with someone who is also a Democrat. So I'd say this is not a political thing, because Nanos is a Democrat, and this person that's gonna be interviewed by Brian, he's a Democrat too. So it's not a political thing. It's because he's rubbish, whether he's a Democrat or not. So again, let me know you can hear it. And I just want to claim fair use. Thank you, Brian, for this interview. It's a very interesting interview. Brian's channel is good to watch. I would recommend you subscribe to it. Okay.
Police department, and there's a local reporter that unearthed his personnel file from decades ago and found that he had been in trouble and suspended and had issues there, a variety of issues, and that he was under oath about something else and asked about his past and whether there are any issues in his past in that way, and he said no, and that is the basis now for this recall, saying that he lied under oath and that he did not disclose these issues in his past when he first got his job at the Pima County Sheriff's Office. So there's the recall that's ongoing, but this has also rose to the level of, it's got the attention of the Board of Supervisors, which again is the governing body over Pima County. And they talked about it at their meeting last night. That would have been Monday night. And no, I'm sorry, Tuesday night. I'm getting my days mixed up. They went into executive session. They ultimately voted unanimously to continue to look into this issue and to try to talk to the sheriff under oath about some of these issues. And I'm going to have one of the supervisors on with me in a second in this episode to explain exactly what they did, what his concerns are. And he has some other concerns about the sheriff, in addition to things with the Nancy Guthrie investigation that are really interesting that he's going to explain coming up in a second. But first, I just wanted to play for you. There was a session, obviously, like every public meeting, where members of the public are able to come up and speak to the board. And there were many that spoke about the sheriff. And there was also the union president, Sergeant Cross, who you've seen me interview before on my show, who is a sergeant with the department right now, who spoke, who you'll hear from him in a second. And they did another vote of no confidence for the sheriff, and it was unanimous. There's, I think, about 300 deputies in the union, and all of them voted that they do not have confidence in Sheriff Nanos. So, I mean, just think about that.
Now, how many times does a vote of confidence get 100% vote of no? Normally some, but this is what I'm saying about Sheriff Nanos. Surely, how can it get 100% vote? You have a vote of no confidence. We can always think of it as far as politics is concerned. You normally get maybe it'll go 75% voting of no confidence, but 25% vote of confidence. You've normally got some allies, haven't you, that will root for you. Not Nanos. 300 deputies, no confidence.
That for a second. Every single one, according to the sergeant, voted no confidence, which is quite a statement. And again, going back to politics and unions, I've covered stories where, unions many times aren't happy with the boss. They're upset with the pay. There's issues here and there. But this does feel different, the fact that all of them voted no confidence. And I mean, they're obviously trying to make a statement there. But I wanted you to listen to some of the people who are speaking during the public comment.
My name is Laurie Moore. Sheriff Nanos is currently in the process of being recalled. As a person helping to collect signatures, the mere mention of his name gets the clipboard snatched out of my hands, followed by, "Give me that, this guy has got to go." Most petition signers only know of Sheriff Nanos from the embarrassing reports on national news, excoriating him nightly for a pattern of amateurish missteps in the gruesome disappearance of Pima County resident Nancy Guthrie. This does not bode well for the leading law enforcement officer in Pima County or the people who gave him that job. The sheriff's well-documented history with the El Paso Police Department should have never granted him employment in the Pima County correctional system, much less the climb to sheriff. The signs were there if anyone bothered to look. For example, there is a record of disciplinary action, including a multiple-day suspension for police brutality.
I'm Sergeant Aaron Cross, president of the Pima County Deputies Organization.
Police brutality. So apparently he hit a handcuffed prisoner who'd already been taken into custody and was in handcuffed. He hit him with a flashlight, allegedly. So, these are serious complaints. They're probably prisoners and convicts or, people who have been arrested probably often complain about the police. But these are serious complaints. Police brutality.
As many know, a reporter recently uncovered the long-hidden, terrible record of Sheriff Chris Nanos from his time as an El Paso police officer. This includes purportedly beating a handcuffed suspect in the head with a flashlight, for which he was suspended and nearly indicted. This record, if properly disclosed, would have likely prevented him from being hired or from becoming a peace officer in the state of Arizona. For over 40 years, this has been concealed from the department and the voters of Pima County. Because of this scandal, our organization, the largest union of deputies in Pima County, has taken a vote. We asked our members a clear question: confidence in Sheriff Nanos to continue in office, or no confidence and a call for his resignation. The verdict was unanimous: no confidence. He has lost the faith of his deputies and the community.
It's no secret the nation has eyes on Pima County. We have a sheriff who has numerous lawsuits, an FBI RICO investigation, deputy on deputy rape case, a pattern placing campaign opponents on leave.
Did you hear that? Deputy on deputy RAPE case. You know, there's no limits to what this guy's got against him.
He has created a hostile work environment where in many cases officers or deputies question or disagree his actions or decisions. Retaliatory actions such as duty.
Chris Nanos is an international embarrassment at this point. Now, I know that you guys didn't hire him. We elected him, unfortunately, but long before the Nancy Guthrie investigation, this man lied about his record to get hired at the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Recently, he lied under oath. And we know that he runs the Sheriff's Department with an iron fist, abusing his employees. We have one in the room today. Sergeant Aaron Cross has been absolutely abused by this man. Lieutenant Heather Lappin, who had the audacity to run against him for sheriff, was abused to the point that even though she was wildly well-educated and well-informed and so qualified for her job, that she fled to another police department where, frankly...
Yeah, this is what he does. So he makes their life so uncomfortable. So Heather Lappin, she was the one who ran against him in the last sheriff's election that he won by 400 votes or something, despite his dirty tactics. He removed her from her post. You know, he put pressure on her. He intimidated her. You know, this guy has got to go. I mean, I can't believe he hasn't gone yet.
So much better. Women have been abused under this man. This county has been abused under this man.
So you can hear some of their concerns there at this meeting. Much of what was discussed about the sheriff was in executive session, which is behind closed doors. So we don't know what the supervisors were saying. But I do want to play, after the meeting ended, I was able to get in touch with Dr. Matt Hines, who is one of the supervisors on the board, and kind of find out a little bit about what's been happening behind the scenes and some of the concerns that he has and that the other supervisors have about Sheriff Nanos. Listen to what he had to tell me. Dr. Hines, I was watching some of the meeting. Obviously, I couldn't see what happened in executive session, and we just became familiar with Sheriff Nanos, you know, when we started covering the Nancy Guthrie story February 1st. So we don't know all the history, and there's clearly a lot of history with the sheriff.
There is some history for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you have concerns specifically about the Guthrie investigation? Does that play into all of this, or is it mainly other issues?
Honestly, it is a lot of issues. It's an accumulation of issues. The Guthrie investigation, because of its high-profile nature, certainly, you know, reframed things and made people just kind of tune in and more aware of the sheriff.
Hey guys, you know, I was in Arizona for almost a month and a half.
Right, this is Brian's sponsor he's talking about. I'm going to skip over that. I'll skip over that. Sorry, Brian. We know.
Mamá, que estaba en clase y no te he leído. Sí, he comido. Oye, ¿quién iba a imaginar que sería alumno de...
of so much of his career in Southern Arizona in law enforcement, especially in light of the information we just received about how he I mean, he came over here from El Paso 42 years ago and withheld his very troubling work history. He would not have been able, he's frankly, and one of the questions I hope, we'll see what the lawyers recommend, but certainly a question I would like to ask him is, okay, so somebody with 5 years work history in El Paso with 8 suspensions, 37 days total of suspensions, who came to your department today, what would you hire them for, if at all? I would love to know that answer, because the answer is he's not eligible with that kind of a record for any employment in the county, not right now. And I suspect that had those been who were involved with the hiring process back in 1984, I think it was, known about that very troubling work history, he would never have been hired, and he certainly would never have been certified through the AZ Post. That's the peace officer group for state of Arizona. Every person in law enforcement has to be have AZ Post certification. Like I have to have, I have to be a licensed medical practitioner to see patients as a physician, and so on and so forth. So that's just what law enforcement have to do in the state of Arizona. Same thing with every other state. He wouldn't be able to qualify for that, based on what we've learned, especially based on the fact that we just found out that he committed perjury, it appears, in a recent deposition. I can't remember the exact date, but it was in December of 2020.
Yeah, he's lied. I mean, he's lied about, he said he had never been suspended, but he had.
That's not 42 years ago. That is 3 months ago. And it's just unacceptable. It is so, it's tarnishing, and it really, you have to have honor and integrity, and you need to be held accountable for the things you do when you're in elective office, but especially when you are not only elected, but also the highest ranking law enforcement official in Pima County for the largest law enforcement agency in Southern Arizona. You have to be held to a much higher standard. So what I continue to be surprised by, I wasn't surprised nearly as much by the revelation that came from that Arizona Republic article about his work history as I was by the fact that it's been almost 2 weeks and we still haven't seen his letter of resignation, because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that he was under oath, and was he asked about, have you had any previous suspensions? Is that what the question was?
Yes, that's right.
And he said no?
Correct. I will, if it's a little weird to do this on camera, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm pretty sure that's what I read.
Yes, that is. So here's the deposition. Okay, there's a deposition report, page 13. All right, so here we go. So going back, they were talking about a lot of his work history coming from El Paso, all that stuff. And then there we go. Okay, prior experience and okay. Have you ever received discipline as a law enforcement officer? Yes. What was the nature or extent of the discipline that you received? Primarily, it would have been like, I'm not a very good driver. Okay. So I have a lot of car accidents, and a letter for this or a documented verbal for that. Did you ever receive a discipline that rose to the level of suspension? No.
Lie.
That's from a deposition.
He was suspended several times, right?
So he literally, this is in December, he said he had never received a suspension, but he's been suspended several times. So straight away, this guy needs to go. And he needs to go before he's pushed, because it'll look worse if he's actually removed. Why does he not go? What is he hanging on for? My personal view is he's hanging on because if he goes, there's things that people are going to find there. I bet he's doing a massive cleanup operation. Thing is, he didn't know Nancy Guthrie was going to be kidnapped and he was going to be the center of all this attention. If he clears out his desk and goes tomorrow, what is the new person going to find on his computer, on his, he's been there, like say King Dick of Pima County, doing whatever he wants. He needs time to prepare for leaving and clear up his mess first. That's personally what I think. I think if he left just like that, I think they would find all sorts.
He was suspended 8 times, and some executive session was 3.5 hours. So I truncated my my public comments considerably, but I hit on kind of some of the highlights. But here we are. I had it ready to. I was going to read the entire disciplinary history, which is a little bit excessive, but because it's like 2+ pages. Yes. So some of it's like abusive language, tardy, shot fired. That was suspension 1 day. I wonder what that was about. Brutality. That's troubling. More shots fired. Oh, that was okay. Failure to report for duty. 1 day. LWOP. A leave without pay. Right. Off-duty conduct. Threats. Reprimand. Yeah, so it goes on, but violation of rules and regulations, suspension 10 days. Doesn't say exactly what that violation was.
So a 10-day suspension.
He had a 10-day suspension. He had multiple 1, 2, 3 day suspensions, usually for stuff like, and that whatever that the leave without pay one. I'm sorry, I'm looking down a little bit because I'm reading it.
No, it's fine.
So yeah, civil suit against city. What? Okay. Yeah, so suspensions. So it's 37 days total of suspension time, and it was 8 occasions. This is over 5 years, and I've heard from so many people in law enforcement. They're apoplectic about this. You cannot retain this high office. You can't get the respect of the 1,500 hardworking men and women of law enforcement, both on the correctional officer side of things that are helping to deal with the jail, and also on of course the deputies side of things as well. You can't be the head law enforcement officer when you yourself, at this point, he let his certification, that the peace officer certification, he let that lapse because you don't have to have it in the state of Arizona when you're an elected sheriff or a constable, which is weird because we give them guns and an automobile, 2 deadly weapons potentially. So it was 8 suspensions and a little over 5 suspensions for most of our officers. So to have 8 in 5 years, this is a really troubling record. He was frankly a bad cop. I don't know what that 10-day one was for, as I mentioned, but I'm scrolling down more. Yeah, lots of
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Look. No, but if you watch my channel on a regular basis, I don't come down hard on law enforcement. I think law enforcement in general do a fantastic job, but you get some bad apples in there. He is a massive bad apple, and he's risen to be sheriff by lying. And the thing is, if it wasn't for the Nancy Guthrie case, nobody outside of Pima County would be talking about it. So that is the only good thing that has come out of this case, is it is cast a spotlight on Sheriff Nanos. He must be fuming, that little man.
Force, that one wasn't sustained. Habitual tardiness, excessive force, again, 15 days. And I went back and looked at it. In fact, I had someone send me the actual articles from El Paso's paper. That he used his flashlight to bludgeon a handcuffed suspect. So, yeah. Right? I mean, he's subdued. He's handcuffed, right? And he beat the guy to you, and it precipitated a civil lawsuit against the police department. He was initially suspended indefinitely, and then once things got sort of adjudicated, he was allowed to come back. That was in March of '82. I was like 5. And then habitual tardiness, and then what's the next one? Oh, and then eventually the next page for July of '82, insubordination and consistent inefficiency. That none of that came through. Yesterday, my public records request, which I put in about a week before, did come back with 177 pages, including his entire partially redacted personnel file, as well as the initial application that he put in for a correctional officer and for deputy. And in each of those instances, it asked specifically why and what was the nature of your separation from the El Paso Police Department. Of course, that's pretty typical. And his responses on neither of them reflected what actually we now know to be the case. He said personal reasons and to get a better paying job on the first one. I believe the second one was personal/divorce, and then to improve myself or to better myself or something to that effect.
I wonder what his ex-wife would have to say about him. I bet she's got a lot of things she could tell us about Sheriff Nanos.
Nothing about, well, I had to leave because they were about to fire me. Role lapse on our part as a county, because background checks were part of any application to become a correctional officer or a deputy at that time. I don't know why it didn't happen. Background checks are required to get AZ post certification, that peace officer certification I mentioned. So somewhere in that process, clearly he was not being fully open and honest or transparent about his history. And that is an unget-overable problem. We must hold law enforcement to an even higher standard, elected officials as well. And he's both of those things. And as I mentioned before, I'm, Richard Nixon knew what to do, right? Like, I mean, he didn't put the country through an impeachment. He cannot, I believe, he's disqualified himself from retaining this position. So we'll see. I hope he does the right thing for the board and having him testify under oath about these things, because he really should just hang it up.
So you're a Democrat, right?
Yeah,
I am. And he's a Democrat too.
He's a Democrat. That's what I wanted to ask you. I mean,
so
this
Brian,
isn't,
Gertie's asking him that question because it's important that people don't think, oh, it's just because he's an opposite political persuasion. This guy is a Democrat too. So it's not to do with politics. He's a bad sheriff. He's a bad person. He sort of clawed his way up there with deceit. And now, of course, he's under the spotlight.
Oftentimes with these kinds of things, it's like Republicans versus Democrats or vice versa. But
no, I love this country. I took an oath to the Constitution and for the United States and also for the state of Arizona. And I take that very seriously. And so did Chris Nanos. And that's why, look, man, you conspired with and used resources of your office to deprive your general election opponent, a Republican who I actually supported, of her First Amendment rights. He threatened her with her job. He intimidated her and silenced her. He decided that there was a gag order. You have to go home, stay there from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday for the last 3 weeks of the 2024 campaign. Heather Lappin lost by 481 votes. That was a photo finish. 500,000 people voted in that election.
So even though he used all those dirty tactics, he made her stay at home, put a gagging order on her. She still only lost by 400 and something votes. So even with all these dirty tricks, he couldn't get a resounding majority. But he effectively silenced his opponent for that sheriff's thing. So, oh my God, it just gets worse and worse, doesn't it? He's got to go, and if he's got any sense, he will resign himself. Otherwise, he's going to get recalled. But the thing is, the recall process, it takes time. He knows that. He knows that the longer he strings it out, the more time he's got to clear up whatever mess is left in that sheriff's office. I bet there's all sorts that he's been up to, and he'll be running around like a blue house fly now, trying to clear everything up.
And he put his thumb on the scale, and he did so using the seal right behind me. He used the trust and authority that was placed in him by the people of Pima County. He used that and abused that trust and authority and resources of this county to I believe, to create, to corrupt a fair election. And I don't say that lightly. Because I personally heard, I will say I did come out and endorse his opponent, Heather Lappin, in that particular election. And when I did that, I got multiple Republican friends and independents who said, oh gosh, I already sent in my ballot. And, we don't like the current sheriff. We don't like Nanos, but we saw some stuff that came out in the news that she was doing all this stuff that the sheriff said she was doing. So we didn't feel comfortable bubbling in Heather Lappin either. Okay, you don't need that. And I heard from maybe half a dozen people or so about that. When you lose by 481 votes, that requires a recount. I mean, it's pretty easy to see that the voters did not have the truth, right? They didn't know about his withheld work history. They didn't know that he has been perpetrating a fraud upon the residents of Pima County for 42 years. That the first thing he did when he set foot, he didn't misrepresent and frankly, to just lie about his work history. And that is significant.
Do you think, I mean, you mentioned he should do the right thing in your words. Do you think?
I think what's happened here with this sheriff, and let me know what you think about it all. All this dissent or all this dissatisfaction with him was already existing. And then the Nancy Guthrie case happened. So it's like, a lot of the sort of dissatisfaction with Sheriff Nanos, it's not actually about the Nancy Guthrie case, is it? It's about other things that were brewing already. There's apparently a massive rise in crime in the area, and he hasn't been able to get a grip on that. There's all this about his misappropriation of funds and his hatred of the FBI because they've investigated him before. All these were pre-existing conditions, if you like, pre-existing problems in this state, in this sheriff's office before the Nancy Guthrie case. And all that the Nancy Guthrie case has done is shone a light on it. And now he can't hide because now everybody's looking at him, not only in Pima County, but all over America, all over the world. We're looking at it. I'm here in Spain, looking at it. You're in whatever country you're in, looking at it. This man, is the best thing he could do is just resign honorably.
Think that he would actually resign just because based on I don't know him well at all. I never knew who he was before Nancy Guthrie, but just my experiences with him, he doesn't strike me as having that kind of a personality.
He's a very proud and stubborn man. And you're right. I don't know that he will do this. I just know that, I'm hearing from people every day. I don't have it with me, but I even got a kind of a funny postcard about it. It's not funny at all, actually, excuse me. But that's a different way of communicating. Usually I don't get postcards asking me to do things. In this case, get rid of the sheriff. But email every day, according to my staff, phone calls, voicemails coming in saying what the heck is going on and why isn't the board doing something? We have very limited authority. We're not the Congress. George Santos, that famous situation, the Congress actually was able to expel him. And I would love to be able to do that. We can't even censure him. I don't know why. It's very restrictive in terms of what the county supervisors can do. There's a narrow pathway to vacating the office if he doesn't respond. If the board votes on April 7th, which I suspect they will, in follow up to our executive session and public item today, if the board does vote, in fact, to require the sheriff to either come in person and testify after being sworn in, hopefully that results in truthfulness, or he can submit in writing, I guess notarized writing. He can swear in paper format too. If I were his lawyer, I would probably do that one. But if he chooses not to respond to one of our questions about some of the duties of his office, then there is a provision in statute, territorial era statute, that would allow us to vacate the office after 10 days of lack of responsiveness. But it's a very narrow
pathway. When you say vacate the office, as the board, could you throw him out as sheriff? Is that what you mean?
In that specific scenario, yes. He would either need to refuse to be sworn to testify or refuse to provide sworn written statement, or he if he, for example, if I asked, or if we, the board, asked, can you please tell us about the nature of how did you come to be employed, and can you explain what you appeared?
Right, I'm going to stop it there because there's only a little bit to go anyway, and it's just more of the same, more or less, because I've got classes soon. But so if you want to watch the whole interview, I mean, there's literally only a couple of minutes left, but we didn't watch the beginning of this podcast. Go on to Brian Entin Investigates on YouTube. As I say, he does very interesting podcasts about this case and others. Now, of course, what we mustn't forget is Nancy. Where's Nancy? So as all this drama is happening in the background, and of course the other drama that's happening in the background is JLR from JLR Investigates, his ex-girlfriend, or Jamie as a real name. It's all coming out, the 911 call that she had to ring 911, broke her nose with domestic violence, a lot of things, so I'm certainly not endorsing his channel anymore. In fact, I've unsubscribed from everything from him doing with domestic abusers. So the drama that's going on. But in the meantime, Nancy Guthrie is still missing. Where is she? What's happening in this inquiry? Please God that something progressing. This is the Nanos is like the sideline, if you like, to it, but it may be a good thing that comes out that he is removed. To me, it seems pretty clear that he is unfit for purpose as sheriff of the county. As I say, if there's any out there who wants to support Sheriff Nanos, who maybe is watching, I'll do an interview with anyone who wants to support him and tell us why it's not for all these things that are being said about him. It just seems strange to me that nobody's on any of these podcasts, nobody on Brian Entin saying how brilliant Sheriff Nanos is and he's being misjudged. But if somebody wants to come and do an interview, and I know my channel's not like Brian's channel, I will give you a voice. I'd like to see, it's horrible thing that man has got all that power and he's so deceitful. Has he got any redeeming features? Can anybody say actually he's great? He's done a lot for Piedmont counties. Is there anybody out there that would come on and say that? No, it's great, he's done this, he's done that. I'd like to hear from you, but anyway, we'll see. So, but the most important thing is I hope the investigation to what happened to Nancy is progressing. I hope there's going to be a break soon, but we have been saying that for a little while. Prayers for Nancy, prayers for her family. I don't know how they're getting through this, but I suppose at the end of the day, you just have to. So, for all out there, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, and thank you for any other support you give to my channel. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And as always, until then, may your God go with you. Bye.